guys, welcome back to the Broccoli Roast. I'm Kale Brock. Last week, the Dietitians Association of Australia officially announced that it is cutting ties with its corporate sponsors, such as big food companies Nestle and Campbell's Arnott's, in what I suppose was an inevitable move. The DAA said that this will only serve to curb the public perception that their approach to nutrition and dietetics is somehow influenced by these sort of sponsored or these partnerships. And I'm like, no, who would have thought that? Guys, welcome back to the Broccoli Roast. This episode is brought to you by the Gut Summit. It's a live event all about your gut health, and it's coming to Perth in November, Adelaide in February, and Sydney in February as well. I've got a bunch of the best gut health practitioners from around Australia, and they're all going to be in the same place at the same time, which is very rare. You can ask them questions, you can win prizes, you can engage with them, and if you're a VIP, you can go out for dinner with them. I'm going to be hosting the event, and you guys can find out all about that at kalebrock.com.au/gutsummit. This episode is also brought to you by my latest project. It's a new kids gut health book. It's called Mandy, Microbes, Big Gut Adventure, and it's a story told to inspire kiddies to learn and care about their gut bacteria every time they eat. You can learn more about that over at kalebrock.com.au/Mandy. Little bit of green smoothie. So, the DAA. This whole saga has probably been quite a stressful sort of situation for that organisation. I say saga. This is probably since the rise of the paleo diet of Pete Evans, who has been very public in his criticism of the intimate ties between the DAA and its sponsors. I think that this decision to cut ties with those sponsors, it was always coming. This is what the DAA publicly said when they sort of announced the conclusion of their partnership program. DAA's corporate partnership program has been of value to the DAA and its members for the last 20 years. However, with the appointment of our new CEO, coinciding with outcomes from our recent member surveys, it was timely to conduct a major review. In April, our members were invited to complete a survey to express their views on the corporate partnership program. All responses were then collated and they shared them. The DAA board, together with the new CEO, Robert Hunt, have decided to conclude the corporate partnership agreements with companies within or related to food manufacturing and food industry associations. Now, prior to this decision being made, Nestle and the DAA had already mutually agreed that their partnership would conclude at the end of the year in line with their current contract. So they're sort of saying, they go on to say that the corporate partners are mutually agreeable on this direction. They say, this is important, despite having robust procedures and policies in place and both parties valuing and respecting independence, I highly doubt Nestle are that excited about your independence. Increasingly, we are having to refute that our partnerships impact the advice our members provide. Rightly so. This is like, and I will go into this later in the episode, this is very similar to pharmaceutical companies providing training for GPs. There is a massive conflict of interest. So of course you are always going to have to refute the idea that your advice is somehow influenced by the people who give you money. This is how money works. It buys influence. We believe this change will allow our members to feel empowered and strengthen their positive influence within their practice. Accredited practicing dietitians in all practice areas have an important role to play and will continue blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's sort of the general gist of it. They sort of finish off here with the DAA is committed to achieving our vision of being the leading voice of nutrition and dietetics and feel this change assists to strengthen our influence in building healthier communities through nutrition. I, for one, am very positive about this. I'm feeling very positive about this. But I did see some posts online already, really bashing the DAA continuously, but despite this great outcome. And again, it's a little concerning for me because just because we consider ourselves like woke, healthy people in the health and well-being space, it doesn't mean that we should immediately and automatically shun everybody else who is not in this space and who is not woke enough. That is a religion. And we do not need to become a religion. We need to be open, okay? We shouldn't shun people who don't follow the same sort of dietary principles as us. I've said this before. Making being healthy and being into health and well-being niche-y and esoteric is not good. We need to open up this to everybody and not judge people. I read some of the comments on Pete Evans's Facebook post about this, and you know, I almost get a little bit embarrassed when I see some of these people commenting their brashness, their egocentric position on health and well-being, as if, you know, we are the mighty elite woke health and well-being people. It's entirely embarrassing, guys. We need to relax when it comes to this stuff. We're all human beings. We all want to be happy and healthy, and, you know, everybody's trying to achieve that. We should allow people to do that, and allow them to do that via a different route than the one we are currently on. People can be happy and healthy with a different set of circumstances, a different set of diet, for instance, than us. We need to allow that to happen. So in the Pete Evans Facebook post, he's sort of calling for, or forecasting, I should say, some civil class action suits against the DAA for their nutrition advice in the past. He's obviously very passionate about this, and, you know, I would be too, having dealt with the back and forth, the criticism that the DAA have actually dealt him. He's handled it quite remarkably well, I would say. I would say that I don't think that a civil class action suit will occur. I think that's probably going too far. The ties between their nutrition advice, which, by the way, mostly is in congruence with what us in the health and wellbeing space would say. You know, a wholesome, whole foods-based, colourful, most preferably organic diet, mostly plants. You know, it's kind of all on the same sort of spectrum. It's just the grains and the dairy that don't really match up. And the ties between sort of that advice, particularly surrounding the grains and dairy, and the development of disease, is not so clear-cut. I think it needs to be clear-cut. It needs to be black and white if you are trying to sort of progress with a lawsuit. I mean, sure, we know that grains can be inflammatory. We know that dairy can be maybe not so good for your bones, as we were previously told. Whether that leads to someone developing cancer or osteoporosis, and then that being proven unequivocally to be the result of consuming those foods, I don't think we're at that stage where we can sort of prove that yet, because it's not clear, because human beings and human bodies are quite complex and unique. You know, what if the person was stressed? What if they were eating GMO foods? What if the dairy they were having was particularly high in antibiotics and growth hormones? What if they were plastering themselves with xenoestrogens every single day in the morning, you know, makeup before they go to work? You know, what if they weren't exercising, and that whole thing with osteoporosis? You know, all these factors come into play. I guess what I'm saying is that, hey, look, the DAA and us over this side, if you can separate us like that, probably agree on the 80% of ideologies which make up a healthy diet. And I think we sort of need to focus on that more than the differences. This news for me is kind of similar to the Mojo Beverages acquisition by Coca-Cola, the episode I brought out a couple of weeks ago. It means the tide is turning. Guys, we're winning. We are winning. How good is this news? I'm just going to have some green smoothie. Guys, this means we are winning. It means that the education surrounding whole foods, surrounding a colourful, organic, mostly plant-based, hopefully organic and natural diet that aligns with our unique bio-individuality, it means that is becoming a priority in this country. Independent, valid advice is also becoming a priority when it comes to well-being. That's also really important to the Australian people. For me, I hope that this marks a big shift in how governing bodies, governing authorities communicate their ties with industry. I mean, of course, we're all going to be a little bit excited about this for sure, and that's natural. But just have a think about how much the pharmaceutical industry influences health policy in this country. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to go into this in an episode. The Guardian brought out an article discussing the millions of dollars which Big Pharma donate to our political parties, and how they collude somewhat shadily with sectors of the government to effectively get their own way when it comes to policies surrounding, well, I guess pharmaceuticals, medication, and just generally how we approach well-being. That article was quite striking and incendiary. It was a very well-researched and written article. This is just the sort of lead-in. The pharmaceutical industry is engaging in vast numbers of lobbyists and donating millions to both political parties, creating a level of influence that a former health department secretary has linked to Australia's high medicine prices. Come on, there's more to it than that, guys. A Guardian Australia analysis of donations and lobbyist records has revealed the true extent of the industry's influence. About 72 separate pharmaceutical businesses engage paid lobbyists to influence government decisions and policy. They are represented by 29 separate lobbying firms, many of which have former ministerial or political advisors as staff. This is that revolving door scenario that we see in America. We see it perpetuating, that's probably not the right word, we see it pervasively polluting the American political space. This revolving door between industry and governmental positions. The same thing is occurring here in Australia. The article continued, the lobbying efforts of many others are hidden to the public because they employ in-house government relations staff who are hidden from Australia's weak oversight regime. I'll link the article below, but it's also on my Facebook page at Kale's Broccoli. It got over 100 likes and people got a little bit fired up, which they should. Because for me, honestly, this is probably more important, I think, for Australians to first realise and get out of this freaking stoic and accepting and somewhat, I'm trying to look for the right word, but we are very blasé in this country when it comes to questioning our government. It's kind of like, oh, Tony Abbott wears Speedos. That's what we'll focus on, instead of the fact that pharmaceutical companies are influencing health policy. I think we need to start publicly criticising and calling out the government, calling out the pharmaceutical companies. This type of influence, I think, is far more pervasive and far-reaching than that of the DAA, for instance. But anyway, this podcast is about the DAA. What does this new development mean exactly? It's a great question. For the short term, I'm sorry to say, I don't think it'll mean that much because, there's no way the DAA are going to all of a sudden change all their policies. Change their policies to, a paleo diet, for instance, or a GAPS diet, or an emphasized gut health, and blah, 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 blah. They're not going to do that because doing so immediately would be an admittance of guilt that, yes, these companies have been influencing our decisions, and now that they're gone, we'll change our policy. That would be a very silly move to make. Yes, no, that wouldn't be a good idea. And they're not going to do that, trust me, okay? I think what they will do, though, is carry a lot more strength when it comes to influencing and suggesting policy and ideas around nutrition and dietetics. They're going to be very hard to refute now because they theoretically, evidently, apparently, are going to be an independent body that discusses and steers Australian health policy from a nutrition and dietetics standpoint. I think this is incredibly positive because overall we are going to move towards a more critical thinking kind of debate about which types of approaches to nutrition and lifestyle are inherently flawed, which are based in logic, which have just been influenced by outside interests, and which are just intuitive, and the rest of it. Essentially what's going to happen is we're going to meet on more of a common ground here when it comes to nutrition and how we move forward in this country with what is realistically, evidently based on the statistics, a failing health system, a failing approach to wellness and sickness. We need to change. How do we change? I don't know, but this is a very positive move towards that. Over time, I think you can expect the DAA's recommendations to change slightly, slowly, probably to a point where they start recommending more vegetables and fruit than they currently do, especially more vegetables, I think. Less grains and dairy, yes, that's going to happen, but not to the point of elimination, I don't think. Expect them to start shifting towards the organic movement. I truly think that's going to happen, and thank God for that, because it's freaking overdue, I tell you what. Guys, I'm actually quite familiar with this whole topic and situation, because my girlfriend Emma is a dietitian and nutritionist, and she's struggled with the conflicting advice that she would have had to give if she actually pursued that as a career. So she was certainly excited about this when I mentioned it to her this morning. I want to say that just like the medical profession, just like the GPs out there, just like the complementary therapies and alternative therapies professions, there are good and bad practitioners. This is the same in the dietetics and nutrition space, just like there are horrific GPs who tell patients that they don't have to drink water, they can just get by on coffee and ginger beer. This has happened to someone in my family. Just like, those idiots exist who malpractice on a daily basis and should not be in an office or in an authority position when it comes to health and well-being. Just like those people exist, there are also people and GPs who are avoiding prescribing antibiotics unless in an emergency situation. They're looking at herbs, they're taking more of an integrative approach. Just like there are dietitians who are still prescribing Gatorade powder for athletes to get their electrolytes in, there are also dietitians who are coming at this from a much more holistic perspective, and saying, hey, have some coconut water, and yeah, maybe you can actually cook in coconut oil and a little bit of butter, and fat's not as bad as what we thought, and maybe it is actually sugar that is. It's not this clear-cut thing where we can just group all these practitioners into one area. We can't say that all dietitians are bad, because they're not. They've probably just had a largely skewed curriculum to actually progress through with their studies. And having a base fundamental understanding of human biology will only serve them incredibly well now that we've removed this corporate influence on how that curriculum is actually formulated. We are only going to see some much more positive outcomes from this. And I think we need to actually be kind and be open and thank and be appreciative of the nutrition and dietetics industry for what they are going to do, especially what they're going to do in the future, because they're important. We can't just have this alternative health space. We need one health space, and it's got to be a great health space that includes conventional medicine, that includes alternative medicine, complementary medicine, chiropractic, physiotherapy, exercise, nutrition, meditation, all of it. We need one health space that covers all of that, that's not influenced by pharmaceutical companies, that's not influenced by Nestle or Arnott's Campbell's. That's what we need to move towards, not this divide between alternative and conventional, blah, blah, blah. We just need smart people influencing public policy when it comes to making nutritional and dietetic decisions. And then at the end of the day, we have to let go and say that people have the freedom to choose whatever they want when it comes to this stuff. They can get jabbed if they want to get jabbed. They can take an antibiotic if they want to take an antibiotic, although that's potentially now becoming a little bit unethical to allow people to do that with antibiotic resistance. You see where I'm going with this. We need to actually calm down and stop trying to divide this health industry into woke and unwoke. We're all humans. We all just want to be happy and healthy, and we sometimes arrive at different paths or take different paths to get there. Okay. At this point, I want to say, when we look at long-lived cultures around the world, they're not dietary zealots. And a lot of us have become dietary zealots. They eat a wide variety of foods. They eat grains, legumes, they drink alcohol, they don't meditate, they don't do yoga, they haven't listened to a freaking Tony Robbins audiobook in their whole life, and they live very regularly into their 90s and commonly into their hundreds, we need to look at what they're doing. And that may actually be coming back to more of a stress impact, I think, and a pace of life impact. And of course, they're growing their own food, it's organic, and maybe we can start to embrace those things instead of looking at, it's the dairy that's killing us, it's the grains that's killing us. So the roundup on this, guys, yes, this is a great thing. We now have a potentially independent authority here in Australia who can help steer us toward a healthier future. Don't expect things to all of a sudden just go and change and do a 180-degree turn. It doesn't work like that. But do expect some perspective shifts from the sort of dietitian, nutritionist space. Some small allowances, perhaps. Yes, okay, perhaps we were wrong about saturated fat. Perhaps we were wrong about dairy and bones and blah, blah, blah. It's going to change. And this is a great start and a great example of how public pressure can actually influence major decisions in this country. And I hope that we can carry this pressure over to an industry which I think truly deserves it even more so than the DAA. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Big Pharma and our government health department. These guys need to be pressured. We need to break the ties between industry and government when it comes to health policy. And, this is a big step in the right direction. So, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode and you think someone should hear it, if you think it might help someone gain a little bit of perspective on health and wellness, or it might change their life, please just do me a favor, click the share button wherever you're watching this or wherever you're listening to this, and just flick them a text or flick them a message on Facebook, or just share it on your timeline, share it on your Instagram and your little what's playing now thing, whatever. Just do me a favor. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone. Now, speaking of affecting change in this country, I want you to know some important statistics. 1 in 4 Aussie kids are actually overweight or obese. 20%, so 1 in 5, have or will experience a mental health challenge. And 5%, 1 in 20, will have allergies. These are some serious health statistics that I'd love to change. And I'm trying to do so with my latest project. It's called Mandy Microbe's Big Gut Adventure. I've been working on, educating parents about the gut microbiome for almost a decade now, which is kind of embarrassing to say. Now I want to inspire kids. I want them to feel inspired and excited about their microbiome, about their dietary choices and how these choices affect the trillions of bacteria which call their bodies home. And that's why the new book, Mandy Microbe's Big Gut Adventure, is designed to inspire the kiddies to learn and care about those microbes which call their gut home. It's available for pre-order over at kalebrock.com.au/Mandy. Please show your support by getting a copy or just share it with someone who you think it might impact or benefit. Don't forget, we've got the Gut Summit coming up. It's a live one-day event all about your gut health in Perth, Adelaide and Sydney. For that, head on over to kalebrock.com.au/Gut Summit. If you want to stay up to date with me, just come over to my Instagram at Kale's Broccoli. We've got plenty more episodes coming up. I've got a little announcement coming up, I think, on the next episode. It could be the one after that, we don't know yet. But I'll keep you updated. If you're not subscribed to the show, make sure you are over on iTunes or on your favourite podcasting platform. Wow. I think I've just stopped speaking English. It's been too long. Okay, guys, I'll see you later. See you guys.